Welcome to The Explainer. We're jumping straight into a movie that literally shattered the mold of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it. 2026's Spider-Man Brand New Day, it's a complete game changer. We're going to walk through exactly how this film takes the franchise's tone, rips it away from those massive, cosmic, world-ending stakes, and drops us into a gritty, deeply personal, and honestly, surprisingly dark new narrative. Okay, let's dive into this because this quote from Tom Holland perfectly sets the stage for everything we're about to uncover. He actually described Peter Parker as being at the beginning of the darkest chapter of his life. So we're not dealing with that bright-eyed, enthusiastic kid who went to space with the Avengers anymore. We are looking at a deeply traumatized, totally isolated young man. His emotional state, it's incredibly fractured right now. Section 1. A brand new Peter Parker. We're picking up the story 4 entire years after the events of No Way Home. And that brings up a really fascinating question, doesn't it? What happens when the world just forgets Peter Parker? Well, it turns out he decides to forget himself. Instead of trying to rebuild a normal civilian life or reconnecting with the people he loves, he suppresses all that trauma by burying himself completely in his vigilante persona. It's a really powerful look at how severe isolation takes a massive, exhausting toll on someone's mind and body. Just think about the stark contrast here. Back in his Avengers era, Peter had the billionaire tech, the fancy mechanical web shooters, and this huge world-saving support system. But now, in Brand New Day, he is completely isolated. He's relying entirely on his own biology, with organic webbing. And what's really wild is that when he loses control and gets aggressive, his eyes literally turn completely black. It is a shocking, aggressive shift from the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man into this traumatized lone wolf. And that isolation isn't just messing with his head. It literally triggers a frightening physical mutation. It's almost like a second puberty. Under the intense, crushing pressure of fighting crime full-time, totally alone, his superpowers evolve in a super visceral way. He gets heightened senses, way more agility, and those organic webs we just talked about. In fact, the director, Destin Daniel Cretton, mentioned that Peter initially thinks he's turning into a monster before he finally accepts what's happening to him. Section 2. Mutants and Monstrous Allies. Now, what's really interesting here is the staggering caliber of this ensemble cast. We've got returning favorites, obviously. Zendaya is MJ and Jacob Batalon is Ned Leeds, though they're living completely separate lives now. But the real shocker? The new blood. Sadie Sink stepping in as Jean Grey, John Bernthal returning as the Punisher, Mark Ruffalo back as the Hulk. It's this absolutely brilliant, crazy mix of street-level grit and incredibly powerful mutants. Let's break down our primary antagonist for a second. Sadie Sink is playing Jean Grey, a mutant with incredibly dangerous psionic abilities. We're talking telekinesis and telepathy. But in this film, her unique origin is tied directly to the Department of Damage Control, who actually kidnapped her. What makes her so terrifying in the story is her ability to use body-hopping possession. She literally takes over people's minds, moving seamlessly from body to body just to evade capture and get her revenge. Now, to figure out how to suppress those telepathic abilities, Peter realizes he needs power inhibitor devices. So he turns to Bruce Banner. But this is not the totally in control, integrated smart Hulk we saw back in Endgame. Nope. Bruce Banner has tragically regressed right back to his violent, uncontrollable, savage Hulk state. Talk about a highly volatile situation. And it completely boils over when Jean Grey actually possesses the Hulk and uses him to attack the DODC. I mean, wow. Then, adding to all that chaos, we have the incredible inclusion of Frank Castle, the Punisher. John Bernthal brings that signature R-rated edge right back to the screen, operating out of the Golden Girl houseboat. And honestly, it's so clever how the filmmakers handled his violent, profane nature in a PG-13 movie. They got super creative with it. Whenever Frank tries to swear, Spider-Man just hilariously shoots a web right over his mouth. It builds his fantastic big brother-little brother rivalry. It gives Peter a gritty mentor who actually understands exactly the kind of dark headspace he's in. Section 3. The Road to Production. Shifting gears a bit, the real-world development cycle for this film was a complete roller coaster. It started way back in August 2019, right in the middle of a high-profile contract dispute between Sony and Marvel. Then, flash forward to May 2023, and the Writers Guild strike put everything on an indefinite pause. Destin Daniel Cretton wasn't even officially hired to direct until October 2024. And finally, we get the July 2026 theatrical release. Honestly, the strikes and the director changes acted like a crucible. It gave the creative team the necessary time to mature the story into the incredibly grounded vision we ended up getting. But getting that grounded, highly practical vision of New York onto the screen, yeah, That didn't come cheap. It required a massive $225 million production budget to pull off this street-level story and seamlessly bring heavy hitter characters like the Hulk and the Punisher into Spidey's isolated world. So, the crucial takeaway here is that this movie's timeline was shaped by some highly unusual factors. Beyond the studio renegotiations and the strikes, Tom Holland was actually in the writer's room super early on, actively shaping the script. He had unprecedented creative input. But what's truly fascinating? Holland actually asked Sony to push the start of filming back 6 whole months just so he could accommodate shooting Christopher Nolan's film, The Odyssey. It's wild that a totally separate Nolan project delayed a massive MCU tentpole, but the studios respected his request. And you know what? That delay allowed for even more crucial script rewrites. And that long, super careful road to production, it is absolutely paying off. Looking at the current numbers in our source material, the film has already grossed $169 million at the worldwide box office. That just proves audiences were more than ready for this intense, mature new chapter in Peter Parker's life. Section 4. Comic book design inspirations. And this brilliantly illustrates just how deeply director Destin Daniel Cretton honored the source material. He literally had classic comic book covers pinned up in the art department so he could meticulously recreate specific shots on film. For example, Amazing Fantasy number 15 inspired the shots of Spidey swinging with a civilian. Amazing Spider-Man 129 directly inspired the Punisher's cinematic look, and they practically recreated a whole panel from Civil War number 5 showing Frank Castle carrying the body of a severely injured Spider-Man. On top of that, the creative team completely stacked the deck with classic street-level villains. Instead of relying on massive cosmic threats, Peter faces enemies he could realistically defeat in a day or two. We get Tarantula from Amazing Spider-Man 134, the cyborg Ramrod from issue 221, and Boomerang from issue 345. It is an absolute treat for longtime comic readers who just want to see a proper friendly neighborhood Spider-Man taking down his classic rogues gallery. They also took a really grounded, practical approach to the visual effects. To show Jean Grey's body-hopping possession, they didn't just blanket the screen in heavy CGI. First, they totally avoided heavy VFX for the mind control sequences. Instead, Cretton hired his friend, the dance choreographer Nathan Kim. Together, they meticulously coordinated these contorted, twisting body movements. That way, the audience could physically and viscerally see the villain's presence taking over a person. Ultimately, the absolute core of Brand New Day is a return to the proper Spider-Man. Like completely stripping away the Avengers tech, the alien invasions, and all those world-ending stakes, the film perfectly captures the true, classic essence of the character. He's on his own, defending his neighborhood, and using his great power responsibly, even when it costs him his own personal life and happiness. But this is still the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? We always have to look to the future. In the film's post-credit scene, Ned Leeds' new app, the Spidey Tracker, appears to show Spider-Man located somewhere in outer space. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. If Peter Parker just spent this entire movie fighting so hard to stay grounded and protect the streets of New York, what massive cosmic event is coming next to pull him right back into the stars?